How is it rocking, Dween Nation? Stay here because we are just about to get underway. In the meantime, please like, comment, and subscribe, and ring the bell for notifications. We put out weekly sports content, and we want to continue to build up Dween Nation and the brand that is Dween Sports. Thank you all, and enjoy. Welcome in, Dween Nation. This is your host, Justin Paez, alongside Genoa Agudelo, and we get to talk about some Week 3 football coming up this week, coming up today. By the time you're listening to this, obviously tonight starts with New England at the Jets, Aaron Rodgers and Jacoby Brissett. So not the most exciting Thursday night game, but most of the time they usually are. And Amazon Prime doesn't get all the best games on Thursday. But nonetheless, it is NFL football, and we got to preview every game in the Week 3 slate. So I'm super excited for that. Obviously, we're gonna have a two-parter. We're gonna have 8 episodes today in this episode and 8 episodes in another one. So stay tuned. It'll be right next to this one, so it won't be far for you guys to check into. But before we get into all the games, how you feeling?
Yo, Dween Nation, I'm doing so good, Justin. Excited here to talk about another week in the NFL. Crazy that we're already on Week 3. Before we know it, it'll be like Week 10, 11, and then the fantasy championships, and then we'll have actual NFL playoffs, Justin, which I don't want to get too ahead of myself. I want to enjoy this football season as slowly as I can, but I'm excited to talk about Week 3. There's some juicy matchups for sure.
No, yeah, and it all starts with Thursday night football. So it's gonna set a bar that's pretty low, and then Sunday's gonna just show us everything and be super cool. Even though there are a number of good fantasy plays in Thursday night's game, and we'll start with the Jets. So looking at the Jets, they have obviously a set it and forget it Breece Hall start, as well as Garrett Wilson. I know he started out slow, but I expect a huge week for Wilson. I think he's going to get a bunch of catches in a Thursday night game at home where, somebody usually shines in a Thursday night game. It could be Breece, but I think it will be Garrett Wilson because people are worried. Aaron Rodgers knows that he hasn't gotten his top guy the ball yet, and I expect him to be fed aplenty. And then flipping on the other side with the Patriots, again, the story is Ramondre Stevenson is a start. And Hunter Henry's an interesting piece. 8 catches last week against the Seahawks. What do you think about this game?
Yeah, Justin, this game is actually more appealing than it seems. I know last year this would have been a dud of a game just because Belichick and that awful Patriots team that they had last year, obviously with the Jets not having Aaron Rodgers, with Zach Wilson, this game last year would have been a snooze fest. But Justin, I am optimistic about this game going into tonight. I love what the Patriots are doing there. I was not, I was skeptical to see what Gerard Mayo was doing. I was hoping he wouldn't bring a lot of Belichick-like traits, but it looks like this offense looks a little bit better. Ramondre Stevenson's getting a lot of volume, and we like Hunter Henry. I talked about him during the summer this year. I was a little bit overhyping him, and I was a little bit disappointed after week 1. He didn't do much, but week 2 had a breakout game. I think he was over 100 yards, and now this is his time. I think that if eventually some point of this season, if Drake May becomes the quarterback, that's going to be the guy that Drake May is going to be looking to go to with Hunter Henry. Looking on the Jets side here, I'm liking what I'm seeing out of Rodgers these past 2 weeks. This is his first home, Jet game, right. Since he tore his ACL, and they won last week on the road, and so I expect that momentum of the offense. And you know what, Justin, Breece Hall looks fantastic this year. I mean, the first couple games, he had a pretty good game in San Francisco week 1, has a pretty good game, a pretty sick touchdown this past week in Tennessee. And I just love Bryce Young in this game. I know the Patriots defense seems a very, very stout, but don't let that fool you. Breece Lightning will probably run wild. And a prediction, I'm gonna go with the Jets here. I think Rodgers has just a regular game, not a crazy Rodgers game. I just think Breece Hall feasts and shows the national spotlight or the Amazon spotlight, Justin, that he is Breece Lightning. He is here, and you know what? Next year, you will draft me number 1 overall. Breece Lightning, that is. Breece Hall will have a great game in BetLife.
I think it's interesting, though, that Breece, he had a really great game last week against Tennessee, and that's without 2 touchdowns that Braylon Allen stole that I'd argue are steals, because it wasn't like a feed Braylon Allen type of play. It just happened to be Braylon Allen happened to be in the right spot and scored 2 scores that you could argue should be Breece Hall. So I think he is in line for a big game, as you mentioned. And then, yeah, I have the Jets winning this game too. So I think it will be somewhat ugly and sluggish, but the Jets will pull it out. Moving to game 2 of the week, we have the Giants heading into Cleveland. Another ugly game. Cleveland did get a win in Jacksonville last week, and the Giants lost to the Commanders with scoring 3 touchdowns and not allowing a touchdown. I think that's never happened in the history of the NFL, which is a crazy stat line. But now they head into Cleveland, and I am OUT. I know Malik Neighbors had a phenomenal game, but I have worries about him. And then on the flip side, I don't really want to start any Cleveland Brown. Jerome Ford, right? You thought he was the lead back. Last week, Deonta Foreman doubles him in carries. So there's some scare. I'm scared there. I think Foreman is in line for that lead role, especially on the early down plays. That's why he was in my waiver wire, one of my top waiver wire picks in our waiver wire episode earlier this week. So if honestly, if you're going for any running back in Cleveland, I think it is Deonta Foreman. And then as for Amari Cooper, I think if he doesn't do it this week, I'm OUT rest of season on Amari Cooper.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm right there with you. Amari Cooper has to, it's just his game. It's scary to see that maybe age might be catching up to him. These past 2 weeks have just been abysmal for him. I'm going to give the Browns, not much to say here. I will say, actually, before I get my prediction, Justin, I have this feeling that Daniel Jones has a pretty good, fantasy game.
Okay.
I'm thinking he kind of gets 80 to 100 rushing yards, maybe a score with his legs. Daniel Jones is known to have these random good games with his leg, and this is kind of falls in a game like this in Cleveland. These two franchises, one has won Super Bowls, one hasn't, but the past 10 years in parts of the NFL, they've been the laughing stock of the league. And so, the Browns have had a good couple years since Stefanski's been there. I do like. I'm not really sure how the Browns are going to win this game. I do think that even though Daniel Jones, like I mentioned, has a good game with his legs, I think that the Browns get the Browns offense enough opportunities to score. We're not really sure what's going on with Deshaun Watson. And Jerome Ford looked amazing last year after Chubb went out. And now it just looks like maybe Foreman might be eyeing that number 1 running back spot. So a little bit of concerning fantasy perspectives there in Cleveland, to be honest. I think I'm only just starting their defense. I don't even think I'm ready to start Amari Cooper yet. Obviously, you're going to start Neighbors and maybe Singletary on the Giants side. This one might be a snooze fest, so I'm going to give the Browns an 18-16 victory.
I think it's going to be ugly, as you're mentioning. I think Malik Neighbors, he might have to be in your lineup based on where you drafted him, because he was getting hyper targeted. 18 targets by Daniel Jones last week. I know it was the Commanders' defense. But when you're getting that amount of target share, I think it was up in the 60% target share last week, which is wild. I think that only a few rookies have hit that number from their quarterback. But with that, with that being said, a bad quarterback having to rely solely on a rookie wide receiver, I'm gonna have to lead with the Browns as well. I'll go 20-7. I think it's gonna be very, very meh all game. Hopefully, the Giants find a kicker because they couldn't kick any extra points last week because Graham Gano got injured. So I'm assuming they found a replacement. And last bit of things, I'm going to have a little prediction right here for myself. I mentioned him just a second ago. I think Deonta Foreman finds the end zone against the Giants this week.
Yeah,
That's my prediction there. And pushing forward to the next game, we got Green Bay at Tennessee. Malik Willis revenge game. Even though he said all is well, he got asked about it this week, and he was like, I have nothing bad against them. He said, I still got paid when I was there, so he doesn't have any bad blood, but that's what he said to the public. I assume he wants to win this game. He wants to win this game more than others. But looking at it, I think it's a big Tony Pollard game. I think the Packers defense have been a run funnel for many teams. Jonathan Taylor only 12 carries last week, got 100 yards. And then Saquon Barkley's RB1 week 1 was against the Packers. So I think Tony Pollard is a great play this week in fantasy, as well as Calvin Ridley. Calvin Ridley, I know he's going to have Jair Alexander on him, but he had Sauce Gardner last week, put up 2 scores. So I think Calvin Ridley's in line for a good game. And in the game, I think Will Levis really needs to get out of the doghouse because Brian Callahan is PO'd. Even I mean, he's not scared in the presser. He'll tell you, hey, Will Levis is playing like crap, and he has been. So I think this game though is going to be better. And then for the Packers, I think you can only rely on Josh Jacobs. He was getting carries out the wazoo, 32 in fact last week, and that's kind of where that ends for me.
Yeah, Justin. It's funny how the NFL works, Justin. That this guy Malik Willis got traded barely a month ago, right after the preseason ended, or I think he got cut, maybe signed. But it's crazy how in Week 3, Malik Willis is getting a potential revenge game. Justin, none of us could have predicted this, and that is just what makes this league so much fun to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And so Malik Willis revenge game. That's really the only storyline in this game. The other storyline I would say is that Will Levis has made himself an NFL meme. I've honestly loved the 2 moments we've had in each week with Will Levis, and I'm honestly hoping there's another one because I'm sorry, but it's just comical, Justin. I just love seeing the Will Levis memes, the oh no in Chicago, and the throw last week, and it's just I'm sorry, but as an NFL fan, I find that hilarious. As a divisional rival, the Titans are to my Houston Texans, it just puts the cherry on top. But I'm going to just pick a winner. Not much to say from here. I think this is a defensive game overall. I do think Pollard goes over 100 yards. I'm going to give it a 17-13 victory for the Packers. The Titans have only scored 17 in each week. And I feel like it kind of, for some reason, goes lower. I feel like that Green Bay defense is able to hold them down for just a few extra possessions. So I like the Packers there on the road.
Interesting. Okay, so I was looking up a little quick stat to try to back up my point because I am leaning towards the Titans winning this game. And listen to this: the Titans have not lost two. Okay, since the Titans have been the Titans, so I was it 2002 or 3. So in 20 years, the Packers have not beat the Titans in Tennessee. It has not happened. Green Bay has gotten victories at home in Lambeau, but not in Tennessee. And that's a fun fact that I think Tennessee will capitalize on.
I want to add that this is also a LaFleur revenge game. He was a part of that Tennessee coaching staff before he got hired. And the last thing I do want to mention, Justin, in our rapid picks, I did have the Titans winning, but that I kind of want to lean on Green Bay right now. But for the rapid picks sake, I'm gonna have to jump back on the Titans winning this. So I'm gonna say 17-13 Titans. They score 17 again, but this time they win. And I'm only kind of prefacing that just because Jordan Love's playing status is kind of in the air. So I know he might not play, but I just want to point out there for our viewers.
Yeah, and also I think the Titans, they've only lost, to me, they lost both their games because of offensive mistakes, aka their defense has been pretty good thus far with L'Jarius Sneed and Chidobe Awuzie on the defensive side. And as for our rapid picks, which is a short episode we just made, you'll see right before this. We jumped on it in a minute. Like we had a minute. It was fresh looks at the schedule. So as our analysis kind of continues, we might have to change exactly what our pick was because you never know. I was speaking so fast, faster than I've ever spoken in my life. So, but anyway, moving to. Oh, here, actually, I'll give my score too. Tennessee, I have them winning as well. I have them winning 24-14 against Green Bay. And then moving to the next game, we got the Bears at the Colts. Interesting game. The Bears defense seems really legit. They're in a back-to-back road game against an AFC South opponent. Before I give my take, what were your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, Justin, this is going to be a very interesting game. We're getting AR versus Caleb Williams. These two quarterbacks were picked very early in their respective drafts. And one team is looking for a victory, and one is looking for a victory to prove that they can, be a productive offense. So this is going to be a storyline. This is definitely going to be one of the games that I'm eyeing all week. Genoa's magnifying glass there. This is one of the games I'm looking at there. With Chicago's offense, Justin, they have not scored a passing touchdown. I think they had a touchdown off the ground game with
Right.
Herbert. And in the week 1, they didn't score a touchdown. It was that defense and special teams there for the Bears. So, Caleb Williams has only pretty much passed for like a total about 250 yards in just 2 games. And, he has a pretty good, receiving core there. But with the Colts, Justin, they're 0-2 and they're home. And I feel like their defense is going to step it up. I'm really concerned for that Bears offensive line. And Justin, this is going to be a reoccurring thing that I'm going to say, and I'm pretty sure you might add on to it. But Matt Eberflus is not a good offensive coach. I
Mm-mm.
mean, I don't think he's better than Slowick as an offense coordinator for my Texans. I don't even think he's a better coach than his own offensive coordinator there in Waldron that's already there. Justin, I might as low and go to say that he might be worse than Matt Canada was last year for the Steelers. I mean, I look at this guy as a head coach, Eberflus, and I just don't think he has any clue what he's doing. I think he was honestly surprised that the Bears kept him because honestly, if I was the Bears, I would have cleaned house just like the Texans were able to do when they got CJ. And with the Panthers, who we'll speak about later, when they got Bryce, they had a whole new coaching staff. So I don't believe in when you clean house and you have the number one pick overall. I think that you should clean coaching unless it's like a Belichick or maybe a Stefanski or a LaFleur, a guy that has proven himself as a coach. So with the Bears, they're going to struggle offensively. I don't think Caleb's going to know what to do. I do think he might get his first passing touchdown at some point. But I'm going to give the Colts a 21-10 victory. I think AR steps up, defense steps up. The Colts rally around the fact that they're 0-2, and they do beat the Chicago Bears at home for their first victory of the season.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. I think the Colts do get a victory, but diving into it more, it's kind of an interesting thing. I mean, Genoa, did you know that you're tied for the most amount of touchdowns by a rookie right now, by a quarterback thrown in 2024? No quarterback rookie has thrown a touchdown yet. No Caleb Williams, no Drake May. He's not playing, but he doesn't have a touchdown. He's equal to what Caleb Williams is doing right now. Jaden Daniels, he got 2 rushing touchdowns. Bo Nix, I believe, has a rushing touchdown. But wild stuff. But I do think he will get his first one, and I think this game might surprise some. I think it will be higher scoring than we expect. I think Shane Steichen is kind of back against the wall right now with, we know he's got the play call, he's got the schemes. It was a bad game from AR in week 1, and then they had to play, in week 1, in week 2, and then Houston was just a tough matchup in week 1. I think that they start showing something even against a Bears defense, and then on the other side of the coin, Chicago, as much as I agree with you 100%, Eberflus has even gone up to this year. And I think, unfortunately, with the Bears losing this game as we project, I think their playoff odds are almost nil, in my opinion, after this game. And if they pull it out, then it completely flips, but I don't think that'll be the case. But I think Caleb Williams will get his first touchdown. I think they in fact, the Chicago Bears team will have 3 offensive touchdowns. I expect a good output for them. DeForest Buckner on the Colts side is on IR as of this week. So the interior pass rush is a little bit sketchy for the Colts, which is only good for the Bears because the Texans brought 7 sacks last week on Sunday Night Football. But I expect a much better game. And I think, and even this too, if DeAndre Swift doesn't have a good game this week, I'm OUT on him as well. So he needs a bounce back, and I expect him to have a good one. Even DJ Moore. I don't know if Caleb Williams is a firm start. I know I'm predicting like 3 touchdowns, but I don't think he's a firm start in fantasy. And then you got to start AR. You got to start Jonathan Taylor, and I think you could throw in Pittman. I think Pittman is also due for a good week, which is, against the grain, he's probably going to get Jalen Johnson. So I expect good things, though. Nico Collins showed out against Jalen Johnson last week. And I'm not saying I know Nico's a better player than Pittman, but I expect Pittman to do something. But I do have the Colts winning 28-21. So moving past that, we got the Texans and the Vikings in Minnesota. Minnesota is on top of the world right now, getting a home victory against the Niners. People are, Sam Darnold is back, baby. They got great coaching. The defense has played phenomenally. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell's a good offensive mind. I expect this game to be kind of fireworks. I expect CJ to have a good game. I know they stuffed up Brock Purdy for a good amount of that game, but I think CJ is just a levels above that with weapons he has. I think I'll let you talk about Stephon Diggs. It's a revenge game in sight. But I expect Jay Jettas to have a good game. It's going to be a Nico versus Jay Jettas. Both get over 100, 125 yards and a score.
Yeah, Justin, this game is a trap game for my Texans. This is one of those games that they go on the road and they lose kind of late because of our defense. I'm a little worried for my Texans, but I love what I've seen out of them these first 2 weeks of the season. It makes me very happy as a Texans fan. I just look at what Sam Darnold is already being able to do, and Jefferson's off to a great start in these first 2 weeks. And he does have a little bit of an injury there. It looks like he'll play though. It looks like he should be able to play. But if Jefferson's there, I don't know if Jordan Addison's going to play. It's looking questionable. They do have a new breakout guy by I think it's Jalen Naylor.
Correct.
Jalen Naylor. He scored touchdowns in both weeks, I believe.
Correct.
And there are two backs there. They have Aaron Jones, but they also have Ty Chandler, who had 82 yards last week rushing. So, this offense is kind of put well together. Obviously, I like with O'Connell. I'm liking him more and more each season as a head coach. He is proving himself to be one of the better-minded head coaches, kind of a new era of coaches, not the Sean McVay era or the Kyle Shanahan, but definitely, in that new kind of style with Shane Steichen and DeMeco Ryans, kind of that new era of coaches. O'Connell does fit there. And you know what? This is a very big time trap game. I think Darnold has a good game, but if not, I think they kind of win it through the rushing game. Minnesota, I feel like they find a different way there. They kind of chant Skull really loudly, and I love CJ. I think he has a great game. I know Diggs has his revenge stat line for sure, but I just think that Jefferson comes out. I mean, if Jefferson plays, man, he is the X factor of this game. I don't know how to really score this game down. I'm going to just give it a random score, 21-18 there. I think they could possibly score more points, but I don't know. I just feel like Jefferson is just a beast. He's going against his former teammate at LSU, going against Derek Stingley there. And so they won a national championship together. And so, I just feel like, the Vikings just steal one against the Texans.
I think that's like it's a good take. And the Vikings are home. They just beat the Niners. It's going to be close. I expect Houston to win. I see exactly what you're saying. It's a tough road game. Brian Flores is a good defensive mind. But I just look at it as CJ probably getting the ball late in the game, and we rely on him to kind of put it away. I have the score being 25-24. Houston winning on the road, showing kind of flexing their muscles that they're 3-0 atop the NFL. I mean, I think there's 9 or 10 teams that are 3-0 right now, but that'll be cut short as the weeks continue on, and Houston's going to stay atop that. But I do agree. I think Minnesota, honestly, most of their players will click. I think Aaron Jones will have a good game. I do expect Justin Jefferson to play without hesitation, without kind of any dip in production. So I think he's in line for a really good game. And then, I think on the Houston side, I do have one quick question before we move to the next game. If it's a Diggs game, right, because it's a revenge game, do we worry about Tank Dell in fantasy rest of season? Because he hasn't had a big game yet.
No, I think that Tank Dell is probably going to break out somewhere between weeks 4 and 6. I think that the Texans in general with their offense are kind of trying to get the new pieces acclimated there. Even on Sunday night, it wasn't really a Diggs game either. We hardly heard from Diggs. It was really just a Nico Collins game. And I feel like with CJ Stroud, he is very strategical. He kind of plans what he needs to do. He doesn't like to force it. That's what makes CJ Stroud such a great quarterback for my beloved Houston Texans, because he's such a strategical quarterback. Yes, it's very attractive to throw it to, Stephon Diggs and a guy that you're very close with, the Tank Dell. But no, CJ Stroud's going to read the defense every single play. And another thing I want to add is that a guy like Dalton Schultz, who was fantastic last year for the Texans, hasn't really done much at all this season. We have not seen Dalton Schultz at all, even with targets. And so I'm pretty sure CJ wants to get the ball to everybody. But CJ is a very strategical quarterback. He's going to read the defense. If Tank Dell's being covered, CJ is not going to force it. And I think that's why Collins has kind of been breaking out these first 2 weeks. His defenses are kind of hesitant to really let Diggs go all out, even though Diggs had a great game, phenomenal game week 1 in Indianapolis. Everybody's focused to have tape on, Tank Dell before he got hurt. And, Nico Collins, he's just been on a tear. And he's kind of hot right now. Even in the last game of the season in Indianapolis, he was hot. He had a pretty decent game in that wild card round, so he's just a hot Texans receiver right now. He is battling a minor injury himself, so I think he's questionable. I think there was an injury report that he might be questionable. So I do think this could just be a Diggs game overall, but I am not worried about Tank Dell at all.
Nice. Okay. I mean, I'm a little worried this week, but I do expect Tank Dell to get back on track. I don't know. I can look at their schedule real quick on who they have down the line. They have home against Jacksonville next week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I'll bet on that next week being a Tank Dell week.
Yeah.
And last thing, did you see that C.J. Stroud? He goes up to in the game. I just want to talk about it in the game to Caleb Williams, giving him some advice, and Caleb Williams couldn't look more disinterested. He was like, yeah, whatever. I was like, I don't know why that got me mad. I was like, Caleb, listen, I mean, this guy sounds like he's a 30-year-old veteran, and he's only in his second year. But anyway, I thought that was funny on Sunday Night Football post game. Moving to the next game, though, we have Philly at New Orleans, and I expect fireworks in this game. I expect similar to what we saw last week. I don't think it wouldn't be smart to bet on the Saints putting up another 40 burger, but I expect plus 30, and I expect it for both teams. I think Philly will find their groove in this game. I know AJ Brown will probably miss. That would be my first assumption. But and if it is that way, I think Devonta Smith in line to be a top 10 for sure, maybe top 7 wide receiver on the week. He's going to get a ton of targets. I think Goddard is going to be a sleeper tight end this week, only if AJ Brown is out. So I would change if AJ Brown shows up. And then of course you're starting Saquon, Jalen Hurts. On the other side, Derek Carr, I think, is a sneaky guy you could throw in again. I mean, he is the quarterback 2 on the season, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think I'd ever say that in my life again, but he is on fire right now. He's a start. I think, obviously, Kamara's a start. You got to start Chris Olave again, even though he hasn't had a big boom game yet. And then Shaheed, why not? Why not? I know he both weeks have been kind of sufficed by a huge touchdown, but go for the glory, man. Go for the glory. I think that's a great play in Rashid Shaheed.
Yeah, Justin, I love this game so far. What with all the storylines there, I feel like Jalen Hurts is going to have to do a little bit more there without AJ Brown, his deep threat. And I like Saquon Barkley to perhaps have 2 receiving touchdowns in this game.
Okay.
This should be an all around shootout. But I just have a question on the Saints side. How long is this Derek Carr? What's the word? How long is this hot streak going to go on? Because this just reminds me just a little bit of a few years back, Justin, when Jameis Winston got hurt and he was still playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, or he was suspended, and then came in Ryan Fitzpatrick, and it was Fitzpatrick, and I think it was Mike Evans, and like Deshaun Jackson was just torching every defense in sight. Ryan Fitzpatrick was having about 400 yards each week, and I would say about week 3 or 4, it kind of fizzled out. And by week 6 or 7, I believe Jameis Winston was eligible to return, and Ryan Fitzpatrick was never really heard much from again that season. So I just hope this is not a thing. I'm not a Derek Carr hater. Yeah, I don't see him like I see Baker. Like Baker just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think Derek Carr is a really nice guy and a quarterback that has made his career last now 10, 11 seasons. He was drafted, I believe, in 2014.
Yeah. Right.
So, pretty much, I hope he can, play well all season. He can be an MVP candidate because he is the quarterback 2 in fantasy. So I hope this lasts. I hope this is not the game where spark flies out. I'm going to pick the Eagles to win there, 30-27. I feel like Jalen Hurts makes a fantastic play late in the 4th quarter, has Jake Elliott kick a go-ahead field goal. Derek Carr doesn't have enough time. I'm not going to say he turns over the ball. There's just not enough time to go the width of the field to score a go-ahead touchdown or even get them in field goal range. Timeouts are chewed up. And I feel like the Eagles get a last-second victory. They do have a pretty bad taste in their mouth from that loss Monday night just a few nights ago. So I like the Eagles in this matchup.
All right. I have Saints 34-30. It's going to be a close one, but I think I think it might be game of the week. Quite frankly, even though we have a good game down the line with Baltimore and Dallas, I'm really excited for this game on the offensive side. Moving to The next game, we got the Chargers at Pittsburgh, and a kind of opposite thing. I think this will be one of the lower scoring affairs. But I think the Chargers, although Pittsburgh's defense has looked phenomenal, I tell you, I think the Chargers' running offense is going to be it's something that is going to be hard to stop for essentially the entire league. I think unless one of those running backs get hurt, God forbid, knock on wood, I think the Chargers will own teams by running the rock all game with J.K. and Gus Edwards, and I think that's what they'll do in this game. But it'll still be low scoring. They're going to have tough, 3-and-outs on both sides. But we're really just waiting for if Pittsburgh offense is ever going to, wake up. They're winning games because of that defense. Justin Fields is doing just enough to win. But I don't think their offense kind of shines in this game. The Chargers defense has looked pretty good thus far. I know they played the Raiders and the Panthers, but I expect them to hold enough and win a really close game, literally 13-10.
Yeah, Justin, these are the battle of probably one of the two best defenses already that to start the season. Very interesting that we get this matchup early and it's in Pittsburgh. This is definitely going to be a defensive showdown. There is Joey Bosa, versus TJ Watt there. And it's very interesting to see, though. One thing I do want to mention, this is the battle of the Justins, Justin.
Right.
The only thing, though, is that, Herbert is battling a little bit of an injury there. He is questionable for the game this weekend, so that is something to be on the lookout there. If he does not play, fire up that Steelers, defense for sure. I mean, Justin, they had been on fire this whole season. Justin, can you make a case for any other defenses being that good? I don't know so far if there's a better defense right now in the NFL than the Steelers defense led there by TJ Watt. And for some reason, Herbert's not able to play. It'll be Easton Stick.
Ugh.
I like TJ Watt to get Easton 1,000, sacks there. So, you know what I mean? So that defense there in what was formerly called Heinz Field, I think it's called Arisher Stadium or something like that in Pittsburgh. But, they're going to be loud and ruckus. It's week 3 and they have their first home game. So they've loved what their Steelers have done so far. They're very proud of the Pittsburgh Steelers. Pittsburgh's a very prideful city. They love their Steelers. It's going to be loud, booming. Give me the Steelers. You said 13-10?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go 16-10. The Steelers always score these weird amount of, points. It's never 3 touchdowns. It's like week 1, they score 18 points. And then week 2, they score 13. It's never really 2 touchdowns and a field goal. It's kind of odd for Pittsburgh there. So definitely like the Steelers to come up there with the victory.
Yeah. All right. Well, so we're flipped again because I have the Chargers winning, but as you mentioned, Herbert is questionable for this game. If he were to be out, my pick would totally flip to Pittsburgh winning the game. Moving to our last game in this part 1 of our fantasy forecast, we have the Denver Broncos heading into Tampa Bay. Denver, I don't know when it's going to happen. I feel like it's got to click in some way. I don't know if it's this week though. I think this week's going to be a tough one in Tampa Bay. So I'm not really starting any Denver Bronco, even though I'm hoping to see more from the running back, more clarity, even more. Week 1 it was pretty split between McLaughlin and Javonte. Then week 2 we saw a lot more Javonte. Javonte commanded the snaps as if he was the lead runner. But now it's week 3. We'll see how it looks. Javonte didn't look good on the ground, even though he got the most touches. So we'll see with Denver, and then Tampa Bay. You think you got to fire up your 4 starters that are on Tampa Bay. Baker, I think is worth the start. Maybe a top 12 play in fantasy this week. The current quarterback 1, but then you got to start Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and even Rachaad White. I know it's been somewhat underwhelming thus far, and Bucky Irving's been more involved than Rachaad White managers would want to, but you got to start him, and you got to start Evans, Godwin, and Baker.
Yeah, Justin, I'm excited to see, Mike Evans line up with Patrick Surtain there. That's going to be really interesting. I'm really curious to see if Tampa Bay's defense can keep this up. They had a pretty good week 1, and they really shut down Jared Goff there. That offense only limiting them to 16 points in Ford Field. I mean, that was just unbelievably impressive. I don't think a lot of people are talking about that the Buccaneers defense might actually just be for real. So let's see what they can do there. Um, you know, I feel like sometimes when we kind of undermine these games, I think that a team like Denver scores more points than we expected. So I may be thinking a 35-23 victory there for
Okay.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I feel like Denver kind of gets things going offensively somewhere in this game. Maybe it's not the first half, Justin, but maybe we're thinking third quarter for once the game kind of gets out of reach. Okay, Mike Evans has nothing. Okay, Godwin's got or Rashad White just scored. And it kind of like, okay, well, Sean Payton tries this and this, and then maybe Bo Nix gets things moving. And then maybe, maybe we're looking into next week when the Broncos go to when they not Denver, when the Broncos go to the Jets to go to New York and they play a week 4 matchup. Maybe we're looking at the Broncos as a better offense against that questionable Jets defense. It's good, sometimes it's not good. So I do like the Buccaneers to win this game, but maybe the Broncos can figure out something going into next week.
I would love that. It's getting really hard to watch the Broncos play football thus far. So, yeah, that would be interesting. I have Tampa Bay winning like 27-13. So they command the game. Broncos score a little bit more than they did last week. But it's still tough for them to get off the ground. But, yeah, Dween Nation, that's 8 games in the books. So that's the Patriots and the Jets, Giants and the Browns, Packers and Titans, Bears and Colts, Texans and Vikings, Eagles and Saints, Chargers and Steelers, and the Broncos and the Buccaneers. And we're going to cover the rest of the 8 games, which is the 3 o'clock slate and on. And we get a doubleheader this week on Monday night, so super interesting there. But yeah, so stay tuned. I mean, it's going to be right above this one as a new episode, part 2 of the fantasy forecast for Dween Sports. You'll see our beautiful faces again. But before you do, Jano, send us out.
Yo, Dween Nation, we love you guys. We just went through all, the early Sunday morning games. I know you guys are going to be so excited for those games. Nothing's better, Justin, than getting in front of your TV at 11:45, 11:50 on a Sunday morning there in football season. So I'm so excited to review these games. Check us out in our next episode. We're going to go over the 12 or the 3 o'clock afternoon games along with the primetime games. So very excited to talk about. Check that next episode out. Justin, it was fun talking about this.
Yes, sir.
Dween Nation, see you in the next episode. And as always, peace.
Peace.